What's up everybody, welcome back. So we're going to continue the Lyra Weapon FX mini-series, and in today's episode we're going to set up the impact decals. So we have two decals available for glass and for concrete, and we're going to set up the surface types, so if we hit a certain surface it will automatically spawn the correct decal. So that's what we're going to do today. I have one announcement. You can become a member of the channel since last week. We unlocked memberships because of your awesome support. So if you would like to join the channel, please do so, and you will get access to the premium channels in the Discord, as well as to some exclusive downloads and a membership badge on YouTube. So that's all I got for you today. Let's dive into the video. So as I mentioned in the video, we have two different impact decals available for concrete and for glass, and there is one Niagara system that covers spawning both of them. So let's have a look at the Niagara system to see how they set it up, and that way it makes a little bit more sense to see what we are actually going to do. So this is the impact decals Niagara system. I'm going to select it over here and scroll down, and there are the spawn attributes. So these are the attributes that we can set when we spawn this system, and over here we have an array of impact normals, impact positions and impact surfaces. So we already worked with these arrays in the previous video for the setting up our FX, and I want to take a look at this array, especially the surface type to visibility tag. So what they are doing, they convert the index to an integer, and these integers actually relate to the surface types of your physical material. So we have concrete and glass, and over here are the sprite renderers. So if I would expand this sprite renderer, the first one is the concrete decal, and if I look down here, it has a render visibility of 2, and that actually relates to the render visibility tag. And the render visibility tag is what is stored in this array, so the surface type to visibility tag. So concrete is visibility tag 2 and glass is visibility tag 3. And if I would go to my project settings and look at the surface types in here, so go to physics and then scroll all the way down. So over here you can define all the surface types you want to use in your project, and this is an enumeration. So if I would enter more surface types in here, I can convert an enumeration to an integer. So an enum is kind of like an array. It's not really, but it's a little bit easier to explain. So the first surface type would be a 0, the second surface type would be 1, the third surface type would be 2. So if I would grab my surface type default and I would convert that to an integer, it would return 0. So they make sure they set up the surface types in the same order as they set it up in the Niagara impact decals array over here. And that way they can convert the surface type enumeration to an integer to get the correct decal over here. So that's pretty much how it's working. And if you want to add your own decals, I'm pretty sure you can. I haven't tried it, but I'm pretty sure you can just copy the sprite renderer, adjust the settings over here, and then make sure the arrays also match up over here. And then I think you should be good to go. If you at least set up your surface types in the way I mentioned, so you need to make sure that the actual indexes will match, oh come on, with the Niagara system. So we're going to set up the surface types to start with. So open up the project settings and go to the physics tab over here, scroll all the way down, and we want to set our second surface type to body. We're not actually going to do anything with it yet, but just to make sure it's in here. And then the third one is going to be concrete, and the last one is going to be glass. So those are the surface types we are going to work with, and we only have decals for concrete and glass, so those are the only ones we're going to use right now. So let's close these down. And now we need to make sure that we create physical materials. So let's go to the weapons folder for now, and I'm going to right click, go to physics and create a physical material. So select physical material over here and create it. So I'm going to call this my physics material. And the first one is going to be body, and then we can open this up, and inside of the physical material all we need to do is change the surface type over here. So I'm going to set this to body, save it, and then close it down. And then I also want to create one for the concrete and the glass. So I'm going to duplicate it, physics material concrete. And let's do the third one as well. So we have glass. And then let's open them up and make sure we assign the correct surface type. So concrete over here. And glass for the last one. And then we need to make sure that we set them up in the level. So let's open up our level quickly. And grab a viewport in here. So I'm just going to grab a wall from the starter contact. So architecture and drop in 2 walls or 3 walls. There we go. Now I'm going to go to the materials folder, and over here I'm going to grab one of the concrete materials and open it up. And on the left side over here you can assign the physics material. So for this one we want to assign our concrete material, and make sure that you pick the one that we created. So there are a few migrated from the Lyra game, so this is the one that we created. So you can assign a physical material inside a material, and then every instance that has this material assigned to it will automatically return this surface type, so you can use that to grab the correct decals or MuzzleFlash or things like that. So we have this set up, and I'm going to grab the glass one as well, and for this one I'm going to set the physics material to glass. And I'm not actually going to do one for the body. So I'm going to simply assign it in the details panel. Oh, come on. You gotta be kidding me. Yeah, sure, take your sweet time. Not like I'm doing anything. There we go. Okay, so let's assign the glass material to this wall. So let's assign it over here. And then we have concrete for this one. Did I use concrete port or concrete panels? I used concrete port. Okay, so I want to assign this one. And then for the last one, I'm going to use the physics material override. So if I scroll down a little, physics material override, and over here I can simply select my body physics material. So I don't have to mess one of those materials up. So we have that set up, and we can test later if everything is working. So let's close it down and save it. And that's good to go. So now we can start setting up the actual blueprint to spawn the decals. So let's create the blueprint that's going to spawn our decal system. So let's right click, create a new blueprint class, and that's going to be an actor. And this is my BP weapon decals. And let's open it up. So first of all, let's make sure that it's replicated. So we're going to the class settings, and we're going to enable the replicates flag over here, so we don't forget. And then dive into the event graph. Now we can get rid of all of this stuff over here. And we're going to create a new custom event, and that's weapon fired. So we need to make sure this is set up as a multicast event, and we're going to give it a few inputs as well. So let's do that first. Inputs. So we need the impact positions. Oh, really? Impact positions, that's my bad. And that needs to be an array of vectors. So turn it into an array vector. Then we also need an array of vectors for the impact normals. And then we need a third array, and that's going to be our impact surfaces. And for this one, we need to set it to the ePhysical surface enumeration. And for the last one is our muzzle position. And that's a vector and a single variable. So vector single, and we have the inputs good to go. Now I'm going to promote these two variables right away. So right click, promote to variable, and just hit enter. So the naming is fine. And do the same for all 4 of them. So we have those stored. And let's make sure we hook everything up. Now first of all, I'm going to create a function to remove the impact surfaces that we are not spawning decals for. So let's create a new function, and I'm going to call it remove invalid surfaces. And this shouldn't be too hard, so let's first of all make sure that we have a local array of the impact surfaces. So let's drag it in here and promote to local variable, and that's our local impact surfaces. And hook it up. Then we're going to grab a for each loop over here, and we're going to plug in the local impact surfaces array. And then we're simply going to check if these are surface types that we can work with. So we can add a branch over here and drag off the array element, and we can compare it. And we want to compare it to the enumeration. So if this is a default surface type or a body surface type, we do not have any decals for it. So grab an OR node and then drag off here again and equal to enum. And this time select body, plug it in here, connect it up to the branch. So if this is true, we want to remove the index. So we're going to grab the normal array over here, drag off here, and we're going to remove index, plug it in over here, and do the same thing for the other two arrays. So we can simply copy and paste these, and then get the impact normals and the impact positions as well. Oh, really? So we need to disconnect them first. So normals over here, and then plug them back in and hook this back up. So that should be good. Now there is one thing I screwed up. We don't need a normal for each loop, but we want a reversed for each loop over here, because we are removing indexes from these arrays. So if we go from 0 up to 8 or 9 or 10 or how many ever indexes are in there, if we remove the first one, the second one will be replaced and we run into issues. So we want to make sure that this is a reversed for each loop. So drag off here, reversed for each loop, and then plug it in. So now it's going to begin at the highest index and then work its way down, and that way if we remove an index, it's not going to affect the other indexes. So plug in the index over here and make sure you plug in the array elements back into the comparison nodes, and then you have to reset them as well. So that's good to go, and we can return over here. So now we have an array left with only the concrete and the glass impact surfaces in here. Oh, really? Okay, there we go. So now we can call this function over here, remove valid indexes. And it's also complaining over here, return by reference impact normals. So this, I don't know why it's doing this, but if I would change it over here and then change it back, then it should be good to go. So there we are. Okay, so that's fixed. Then we are going to add a sequence node over here. And the first thing we want to do is check if we have an active decal component system. So we're going to spawn one. Let's spawn a system at location. And we want to spawn the Niagara decal system. So let's select it over here. We only have one. So impact decals. And we're simply going to spawn it at location 0. That's fine. Auto destroy, auto activate. So all of this is good to go. So we can promote it to a variable over here. And that's our decal system. So Niagara system decals. And then we can add an isValid loop at the isValid check at the beginning here. So isValid, plug this into the first pin of the sequence, and if it's not valid, then we're going to spawn a new one. And we're also going to check if it's active. So drag off here again and look for isActive, and grab a branch over here, plug in the isActive. So if this is false, we're also going to spawn a new system, and otherwise we can continue. So as we did in the previous episode, we need a trigger to trigger the decal system. So let's create a boolean and call this decal trigger. Drag it in over here and set it to false. Then we're going to copy the setter and also grab a getter. And we're going to flip it around, so look for a not boolean and plug it in over here. Now we can hook this back up. So that's good to go. And then we need to feed the parameters into our decal system. So first we need to get an array of impact surfaces, but we need to convert this to an integer for the reason I mentioned in the intro. So let's grab our impact surfaces array and let's grab a for each loop. Plug it in over here, and then we want to create a new array, and that's going to be the impact surfaces integers. So impact surfaces integers. Nope. So this is an array of integers. And then we can drag that in over here, and we can set an array element. Hook it up to the loop body. Make sure you plug the array index into the index, and then for the array element you can't directly drop it onto the item, but if you drag over here and look for toInteger, then you can convert a byte to an integer. So select the top one, and then we can simply plug it into the item, and we need to make sure that we set it size to fit, and then that should be good to go. So now we can grab in our decal system over here, and we can set some parameters. So first let's set an int32 array. So set int32 array. We're gonna plug this into the completed pin, and we want to plug in the impact surfaces integer array. And then we need to give the correct name. So I'm gonna copy it over here. And I'm also going to show you a little bit bigger. So this is user impact surfaces. Let me grab my notepad. So over here, user impact surfaces. That's the name you want to enter. And then let's do the next one. We need to set a position array as well. So drag off here, set position array. Plug it in, and the positions are the impact positions, so we can simply drag those over here. And for the override name, it's user impact positions. So again, let me show you quickly. User impact positions. With that said, we need to set the impact normals as well. So we're going to drag off here again and set a vector array. Plug it in, plug in our impact normals, and this time the override name is user impact normals. So plug that in here, and I'm gonna paste it for you guys. User impact normals. There we go. And then we have to set our number of hits. So we can drag off the decal component again, and we're going to set an int32. So a single variable, not an array this time. Plug it in over here, and then we can grab our impact positions array, and we can get the length from here. And we can plug it into the in value. And for the variable name, that's going to be user number of hits. So plug that in over here, user number of hits, and that should work. And then we need to define our muzzle position, and then we can trigger it. So let's drag off the decal system again, and let's set a position. Set Niagara variable position, plug this in here. We can grab the muzzle position from our variables, and for the name, that's going to be user muzzle position. You might have guessed it. So let me show you quickly. User muzzle position, this one. And then for the last one, all we need to do is trigger it. So let's drag off here for the last time, and we're going to set a bool. Set Niagara variable bool. Plug it in again, and we want to plug in our decal trigger as the in value. And this is our user trigger. So we used that in the previous episodes as well. User.trigger. So that should be good to go. Now with that set up, we can make sure that we delete the blueprint if the system is not available or not active anymore. So we're going to go back all the way to our sequence node over here. And then we're going to drag off here and look for a retriggerable delay. So I'm going to set the delay to 3 seconds again. And then I'm simply going to drag in my decal system and check if it's valid. So is valid. And plug it into a branch over here. So if it's not valid, I'm going to destroy myself. So destroy the entire blueprint. And otherwise, I'm going to wait for another 3 seconds and check again. So I think we are good to go for this blueprint. So let's compile and save it. And now we need to go back to our actor weapon fired function to make sure that we call it. So let's open our character. And let's go into our server weapon fired function. And let's add a new pin to the sequence over here. So we can pretty much do the same thing as we did over here. Well, let's just set it up. So let's grab a spawn actor from class. And we want to spawn our weapon decals. So weapon decals. We don't need to set anything up over here except for a spawn transform. So simply make a transform and plug it in here. It doesn't really need to have any values in here. Then we can promote it to a variable. So promote, and that's our BP weapon decals. And then we want to attach it to a component. So drag off here again and look for actor to component. So we want to attach it to our weapon mesh. Let me double check if I'm doing all of this correctly. Yes, I am. So you want to attach it to your weapon mesh over here as the parent, and the other settings are fine. Then we can simply call the weapon fired function on that blueprint. So let's drag it in over here and call weapon fired. Plug this in over here. So let's plug in the variables first. Let me see. Those are local variables, so they are all the way down here. So we have the array of impact positions, the array of impact normals, array of impact surfaces, and our muzzle position. So that's good to go. So we set this up in the previous episode. So if you wonder where this is coming from, check out part 2. So we set this up at the beginning of the sequence over here. So now all we need to do is add an is valid check at the beginning. So drag in the weapon decals is valid. If it's not valid, we're going to spawn one. And if it's valid, we're simply going to use this one. And then we can plug that into our sequence. And that should be good to go. Now the only thing left is make sure that if we switch weapons, we also set this one to undefined. So let's go to our switch weapon function over here. And we already did it for the weapon FX. So I'm going to drag in my weapon decals and simply set it back to undefined. So that way it's forced to spawn a new one and reset all the variables. So it matches our new weapon. So we should technically be good to go. So let's save everything and let's check it out in a 2-player game. Now let's spawn from the main menu. Maps, main menu. Host the game and let's have a look. Start it up. Oh, I'm not sure if I'm using the correct map. Yes, I am. Okay, so we should be able to shoot this one, and we see decals appear for the concrete, and if we shoot glass, we see glass decals. So far that's working. Now let's see if the other client can see them as well. So if I turn around, I can still see a glass decal disappear over here, so I think we are good to go. Oh, let me get rid of these guys over here. There we go. So I'm firing at the wall. And I can see the decals on both of the screens, although my traces are a little bit in the way over here, but I can definitely see them, and the client can see them as well. So we have our decal system set up and good to go. So left are ImpactFX and then the damage numbers and the MetaSounds. So keep an eye on the channel if you're interested in any of those. And for today I will thank you for watching and I'll talk to you later. Bye bye.